Welcome back to Wizard Supercoach. I haven't been posting videos for a few days because I've been pretty sick and I'm on the mend now, but yeah, in that time I managed to hit my goal of 300 subs, so big thanks to all of you and to everyone that have liked and commented and subbed and helped me build the channel up to this point. Yeah, big thanks to you guys. So I've actually just been watching the Gold Coast trial, or the threesome, or whatever you want to call it, against Collingwood and Brisbane, and there's still a period and a half to go, but you know, it's not too much to get out of it. Collingwood are now playing their basically their reserve team, I think, and yeah, I've seen enough from the Gold Coast here, role wise and stuff like that, to know what I need to know, and it's pretty hard watching. It's not great quality of footy, but yeah, nothing I've seen there really changes my opinion in the things in this video. I think you can't read too much into the practice games, and to be honest, the Suns are pretty super coach irrelevant, I think. This is my opinion, but yeah. I should also mention that for this video I had a bit of inside help from a close mate who's actually at the club. Can't say much more than that, but the predicted best 22 here is actually his and not mine, so any complaints that you've got over that, if you disagree with anything, direct them straight to the club and not to this channel. So it's pretty hard to know what to make of Gold Coast as a team this year, I think, and you know, it's not much different to most other years that they've been in existence. Did they underachieve last year? I'm a bit torn, and it's because you could argue that if they'd just managed to win a few away games, they probably would have made finals. And the other thing is, though, when I look at this list, I see a lot of filler and a lack of genuine A-graders, so then you could make the argument that they maybe even overachieved. I don't know. It just comes down to personal opinion, really. They just seem to have so many players who can be really good on their day, but it's kind of a 1 in 3 situation, like one good game in every 3, and you know, they never have enough of these players fire at once. Like, you need them, you know, you'd want 2/3 of the team or something that will be performing, but it's just, it never pans out that way. And yeah, that's the danger of having those players. I guess, yeah, on their lack of ability to win away games from last year, they didn't win away at all until they beat a broken Essendon in round 22 and then Richmond in round 24, so that doesn't say much. But to go nearly a whole season without winning away is incredible. And I know I've been told that they tried different things, like, you know, taking their own pillows and all kinds of things to try and win away, and it didn't work until right at the end. And I mean, I don't think it worked. They were two pretty horrible opposition by that point, so I don't know, are they going to be able to fix that this year? Who knows? But this is a big concern, I think, for Supercoach reasons. If you are looking at any of these players, you're going to see that most of these Suns players, they're heavily affected score-wise by this. So can you confidently pick them knowing that they're likely to serve up a below-par score every time they play away? Well, probably not. So yeah, this stuff might sound more like general footy talk, but don't forget, Supercoach revolves around the game itself, so stuff like this does matter. So with the draft picks that they've had, I think the team should be far better than this, but they've been too busy focusing on like trading out draft picks for academy kids and overpaying for B graders and giving Geelong free picks, basically. Like, they should have been going after top end talent a while ago. I probably sound harsh, but I don't think there's a team in the AFL that overrates its own list more than Gold Coast does. Just a few of the things that I hear coming out of the club, but yeah, I'll give them this, though. They come up with a strategy and they've definitely stuck with it up to this time. So, you know, rather than changing all the time like they used to, I guess that's pretty good. That said, I reckon they can push for finals if they just learn to start winning away. But, you know, how do you fix that? I don't know. They obviously identified a need at halfback by bringing in Rioli and Noble, which was good, but I feel they overpaid a bit for Rioli, just a little bit. He's a good player for sure, but what they lack are those truly elite A-graders that I mentioned before. They're the ones that will win you the games and win them consistently. The ones that can like take you to that next level, and I just don't see them in this team. it doesn't look like a completely settled lineup. So I guess that's good for Supercoach. If you're looking at like Lombard or someone like that who's fringe or outside the 22, it looks like Lombard might have just done his shoulder in that game. So yeah, wouldn't be looking at him now. I wasn't anyway, but yeah, from what you can see here, he's an outside chance for round one, or he would have been before that game. So yeah, the ruck situation is interesting. I think the word from the club is that the first ruck, it's going to be whoever's performing like better at the time. And from watching this game, you know, they got Witts playing in the first half, and now Moyles in the second half. I think it'd be Witts. It would have been nice if Moyle played less games last year, though, because if Witts gets injured or something and he takes the role, he's priced too high already to be a really good bargain pick or something like that. Yeah, I mentioned Lombard before. Like he was meant to be a good chance, but I'm pretty confident that he's not going to be a starting pick. Maybe a downgrade later. So looking at these depth players, there's quite a bit of dead wood, or maybe I should say players who've stagnated in development big time. But the worry here is that there's guys who are now, they appear to be outside the best 22, and they're in their late 20s and early 30s. So like Holman, Swallow, Farah, Lemons, Sexton, like that's quite a lot really to have outside your 22. I guess they're still handy enough if they're absolutely needed in like an injury crisis or whatever, or a few of them will probably still get games with injuries, but this kind of thing I reckon is more what you'd expect to see from a contending team rather than one that's building and has never made finals. It's a bit odd really. Then there's guys like Humphrey and Davies. They've never really had the proper opportunity to develop in the midfield because of, well, Stuart Dew and Dimmer. They've had this love of playing the same three midfielders almost exclusively. So we'll have a look now at how they split their CBAs and what this issue is. So Gold Coast had the third smallest spread of any team, and in Dimmer's defence, it appears to have been worse in 2023 and 22. But for so long, they've just used Touk, Rao and Anderson, and it's caused them to basically have a lack of diversity in the midfield. Like, yeah, they don't really have anything different. Like, if that's not working, what do they go to? And there's no second brigade to speak of. And because of this, because, these other players have just been frozen out. Think of like Fiorini. Like, even if you think maybe, he's not up to it or whatever, he never really got a proper chance, I think, in there because, it's these three or nothing, and it's always been that way. So you probably think that, well, those three players, they're pretty good, so it makes sense that the midfield is set. And yeah, you would, but, there's two things here. Where does that difference of style come from in there? So some speed and zip rather than just relying on that contested ball style in humid conditions all the time. If you want more proof of this, they were still winning in Darwin. So Darwin, while obviously considered home games, it's not at home, so it's clearly not a travel problem. It's more of a problem of where they're travelling to specifically. Like they need that humidity or whatever to play that contested game. The other issue is that these three players were all in the bottom 8 mids for Supercoach average in wins and losses. So when they lose, they tank big time. So Anderson was actually the worst out of all the mids. Miller was 4th and Rao was 8th. So you got all three from one team that basically just used those three. And, surely it's time to try something different, I think. This is coming off really negative, obviously, but, it's annoyed me for a while now. I do like the Suns, and it's hard to watch at times because it seems a little bit obvious. So, yeah, based on all that, I don't think the CBA picture is going to change too much. Like, Graham getting 41%, so that's not too bad. But I think Flanders is going to get less this year. Like, he doesn't really need them, but maybe the team needs him to get some. I don't know. People have talked up Humphrey as a breakout, but I can't see him getting anywhere near enough mid-time for that to happen. Mind you, he was getting a few CBAs in the practice game, but He looked good forward, and Took wasn't playing, so yeah, you just never know. So yeah, the midfield, I reckon it's pretty much a closed shop right now, or at least it appears to be. But if any of these three were gonna lose some CBAs, I think it's Rao is the least likely, given that he's never really shown he can play anywhere else, and Took's the most versatile, so he's probably first to lose out. But again, any of this happening is probably unlikely. So onto the kick-ins, and there's not much here unless you think Power could break out. It's not a bad shout given that he's looked prime for a while, but the additions of Rioli and Noble mean there's more mouths to feed now, so it's probably less likely. If Flanders keeps that half forward and that extra mid kind of role, then I doubt he takes as many kick-ins as he did last year. Sexton, obviously, he was getting them, but, you know, he's going to struggle to get a game, I reckon, so leaves opportunity for Rioli and Noble to take some kick-ins. They got them at their old clubs. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell, like, from the game tonight, who's going to really be doing what. I'll make a video about that, like, proper like match report from what I saw from those first 4 quarters. Yeah, it might shed some light, I guess. Rioli, though, he's obviously not playing in that game tonight, so yeah, it's pretty hard to tell. I'm not sure if Powell's playing either. While I'm talking about defence, we'll have a look at Rioli. So the first thing that stands out for me about Rioli is his great durability here. So he's pretty much never done an injury or missed a game from injury in the past 5 years, but he did injure his MCL in November in pre-season. But yeah, he's meant to be back to full fitness about now. So yeah, I don't know why he's not playing tonight. Did he play in the Indigenous game? I can't remember. But like most halfbacks, he obviously does better in wins, but, you know, the difference here isn't absolutely massive, so I guess that's a good sign. I can't work out why his post-buy average was so much better than the pre-buy. So looking at his stats, and not a lot changed, to be honest. He got a bit more of the ball, but he also started to handball more, so yeah, I'm not sure. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments, because I got no idea. I had a bit of a look into it, but couldn't find anything. I think his points per disposal, it's a little underwhelming, especially compared to the players you'd want him to be scoring like in the same role if you're going to pick him. He could cop some attention this year from defensive forwards as well, I guess, now that, you know, he's in a team that actually will threaten to win games. Yeah, teams probably didn't really bother like putting any time into him given how weak Richmond are, but yeah, the Suns could be half decent, I guess. Probably also explains why he's still vulnerable to floor games. He still gets the occasional like 50s and 60s kind of games. So yeah, it comes down to this, I'd say. Everything looks all right, like numbers wise, but it just fits where he's at as a scorer. Like he's not a primo. So yeah, people are looking at him to take that step, but I don't know if there's anything that really suggests he's going to do it. If you're picking him at this price, like, it's got to be as a keeper. He's just not in that category for me, though. Even if he was to, let's say, increase his average by 10 points this year, which we know it's pretty hard to do, that's still going to put him outside of the top 10 defenders from last year. So, you know, it's kind of like a high risk for not a hell of a lot of reward. There's also that problem of more mouths to feed at Gold Coast, so, you know, he's got to contend with Noble, Power, maybe Weller, even Flanders if he ends up going back to that half-back role at some stage. I know he had to share with Short at Richmond, but now he's potentially got to share with a few guys, and without that proven primo scoring history, I just can't see where the upside's going to come from. He strikes me as the kind of player who, you know, he teases, but he's always just going to sit just outside of that primo kind of category. If anyone's got any different takes on him, or you know, you can give reasons why you think he's going to go that next level, I'd love to hear him. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Got Flanders next, and geez, what a season he had last year. Look at the jump in average from the year before. Like, that's pretty rare to see something like that. And his durability is good too. So, you know, a lot of games missed here, but it's, you know, he just wasn't getting selected, which is absolutely crazy. because I don't know, like look how good he is. No wonder Stewie Dew got the boot. That's all I can say. The thing we love to see is a Suns player whose average isn't tanked by losses. It's pretty rare in this video. So, yeah, super consistent stuff here. And he can hold his head high, I think, knowing that he's not the issue. The pre and post buy is pretty consistent as well. Tiny drop off, but, it's pretty hard to maintain a 120 average for a whole year. The points per disposal is kind of surprising. It's not the greatest, but, given that he just does what he wants and racks up the possessions without any attention, it's not going to hurt him. So it's not like he gets tagged, and with the way he plays, I don't think if you tagged him, it's going to matter too much anyway, because he just runs and follows the ball. So yeah, just keep in mind as well that he was the last player last year to register a sub-ton. So he was last man standing, which is pretty good. And it was late too. I think it was like one of the last few rounds. The points per minute here is pretty delicious. Tog, I reckon there's actually a little bit of room to grow. Imagine if he hit like Errol Tog like up above 90. Like holy shit, he'd be like Gary Ablett level scoring, I reckon. The CBA picture, it's kind of all over the place. But when Took was out of the side, he played inside mid for a 6-week block, and he averaged around 80% CBAs for that time. So, it doesn't really matter. He scores on the inside, he scores on the outside. It doesn't matter. Anyone picking Max Holmes, you should be hoping for the same, I think. The CBAs and the wins and losses, it's a little skewed as well, because that 6-week block of the inside mid role, well, that was in the post buy, and that was when the team was losing more than they are winning for sure. So yeah, I'm probably making a pretty good case here to pick him. But now for the negative, he's been dealing with a back injury in pre-season, and I mean everyone surely would have heard about this, but yeah, he's in doubt for round 0 now. So with a price tag that high, and I mean the price tag's for good reason, obviously, but it's not the kind of risk I think that we can be taking with a pick like that. So no doubt he's going to be a great upgrade target later, but I'm pretty confident that he's going to lose some money to begin with. I'm not going to pick him just purely based on that, as good as he is. I can't wait. Like if he drops to 550k or something like that, God, he'll be in my team quicker than Dimmer on the team physio, I tell you. So now we get to the midfielders that I talked about so much earlier in the video. So Anderson's the new captain, so congrats to him for that. If I was picking a captain though, I think I'd want someone who's a bit more consistent and leads the way and performs still when things get tough. So I don't know, maybe that's too critical, but maybe they hope that this helps him take that responsibility and, takes it on a bit more, like leads from the front. I don't know. Obviously there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and not really one usually to question decisions like that when you don't know the inner workings of a club. But yeah, I don't know. So I love the linear scoring progression here in his career. Like it's nice. It's certainly looking at this makes it easier to want to take a risk on a player like him, I think, because I think there's still room to grow for sure. Just got to tidy up some stuff. The elephant in the room, though, it's this win-loss average here. Like, minus 43 in losses. That is insane. What's equally insane is that he averages nearly 130 in wins. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the worst of any relevant midfielder. And he was even 8 points on average clear of the guy who was second. So he's far and away the worst in terms of this. He only hit the ton twice in losses last year, and it's just not the kind of scoring required from a guy that you're going to pay nearly 600k for. If the Suns look like a flag threat this year, then maybe I could get around that, but yeah, they don't. So on the flip side, like I said, look at that win average. Imagine if he does work out how to be at least functional in losses and bring this up to like a 100 or something. There's actually massive upside here if he can correct that. But the question is, can he do it? Does he even know why it's happening? Does the club know? I don't know. The points per disposal is not good at all, and he's got the third lowest of all relevant mids. I think this is probably explained by his somewhat erratic disposal efficiency. Rao's the same as well, I think. The points per minute is decent, and the Tog's probably maxed out, I'd say, in that role. CBA section's pretty straightforward. Like, suggests his classic more CBAs equals more score type operator. The wins and losses part is so close here, it's irrelevant, so there's nothing to investigate there. There's not a hell of a lot to say about him, honestly. Like, I'll do something different. I could take the easy way out here and dismiss him as a pick just because he hasn't worked out yet how to score in losses. To be honest, like, that would be the fair choice to do that, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to concentrate on the upside here. So, I feel like I've been pretty negative in this video on the Suns. So to average 106 here with the, with that loss average in a bottom 8 team that, lost more than they won. That's pretty crazy. So we've seen in the past what becoming the captain can do for certain players, and if it has the same effect on Anderson, he could be a massive bargain here, even at 574k. Like, look at this. I know the extra buy, it's not ideal, but there's enough potential upside here between this and this that it could cancel that out, I reckon. You got to be absolutely convinced that he can turn it around, though, and that's where I'm not. But just saying, like, there is potential growth here, a big growth. So it's still a highly risky pick, and I'm not touching it. But yeah, I can sort of see the logic in this one at least. Like, I can make a case for why he's a good pick. So we'll cover Rao as well. We'll do all the big three midfielders. So yeah, Rao, he had those 2 bad injuries at the start of his career when he looked $1 million. He's had 3 good years now without missing a game. So, I remember thinking he looked like he could have been anything in those first 5 games, and I can't help but wonder since, like, how much have they contributed to him being able to only really play the one role now. So I don't even know if they have, but, we'll never really know. It's not a criticism of him, though. Like, he's clearly very good at the role he plays. I'm not knocking him here. Those players, I think, are still important, even though they're not exactly fashionable in the AFL anymore. So, yeah, his scoring progression looks to have stalled here last year. He looked like he was going to make that next step, but what the hell happened? Like, coming up to the bye, he was killing it here, like almost 114. I don't know. So his CVAs post-buy, they dropped by 9%, but it didn't happen immediately. So I think Dimmer might have been looking for that other element in the midfield because things weren't going as planned as a team. I did mention that possibility earlier about that other element or the diversity in there. But also, his form just looked to tank big time from the eye test alone. Maybe he was carrying an injury, I don't know, but whatever it was a massive drop-off. Lucky for him, he wasn't alone, though. So just like Anderson and Miller, he couldn't score in losses. Like, I mean, 91's not the worst, but still a big drop, like 22 points. Basically, he couldn't score away from home, and he had to be in the humidity, so we know he thrives on that slippery contested ball, so that's why at Darwin he also does well, even though it's technically not the home ground. But he only tunned 3 times in losses last year, so it's only slightly better than Anderson here. Having said that, though, post-buy, he seemed to find it hard to post tons at all. I think he only got the 1 or something like that, so yeah, not great, that drop-off. The points per disposal, it's quite good actually, given that his disposal by foot can let him down. I mean, it's the nature of the job. He's an inside mid. He wins it at the cold face, and usually it's a hack on the boot forward, which is fine. Like, this is his job. But yeah, quite surprised to see it was that high. Probably because of all the contested ball. I would say he doesn't get much on the outside. So I think for that reason, he's not really going to get tagged much at all. This is good too. the points per minute and the TOG. Given the role he plays, the TOG's probably not going to go much higher. It's not like he can stay on the ground and go sit somewhere else. I did hear a whisper, though, that he might spend some time in a forward pocket, but, you know. Actually, to be honest, just watching the trial game tonight, or that, whatever you want to call it, he did have a shot at goal and he missed. It was quite an easy shot, but he was deep forward when he marked it. He was by himself. So I don't know if he rolled down there off his own accord or if he actually was playing in the forward pocket. So this surprised me, actually. He doesn't appear to be a player where more CBAs guarantees more points, and for whatever reason, I don't know, but so yeah, the 70 to 79% CBAs, this seems to be the sweet spot for him. But I've got no idea other than when he's in there for longer, he gets tired having to do all the contested work. I don't know. If you know in the comments, let me know. Yeah, I don't. So this is quite close again. Like, I don't think there's anything really to investigate there with that. I think I'm going to have to go with more of an eye test approach on Rao than the others. So, given that he has no outside game to speak of, and he still doesn't, he's always going to be limited, I think, to what he can score on the regular. So when the ideal conditions align, we know that his ceiling is great, but he's also got those floor games, which bring him back to earth, and that's why I think that his average is going to stay around the 105 mark. Yeah, like he's got the potential to go those big scores, but over the course of a full season, they just even out. So for some reason as well, a lot of the mids jumped out the block started last year. They were averaging crazy numbers for the first, until their bye, but hardly anyone could sustain it. And I don't think anyone dropped off as much as Rao did, which is a worry. I guess it's the same deal as Anderson where, he could be good if he works out how to score in losses, but I think he's also less likely to do it because his game is, without this being a criticism, more one-dimensional. So, if he could add that outside game, which I don't think he's going to do, he's been trying for a while, but I think it would be his only hope. The fact that all three starting mids have the same issue in losses, it's pretty alarming. It should be alarming for the club and probably suggests it might be down to something more than just the individuals here. Like, yeah, maybe it's something within the club or some style that they're doing. I don't know, but it's definitely not something that I'd want to be taking a risk with if we can't work out what it is. So the final piece of that trio, Tuke Miller. He's an absolute gun Supercoach scorer from previous years, as we can see here, like 21 and 22. He was godlike. But yeah, we can see it starts to tail off here, and I think it's directly tied to this. So his body started giving him trouble, and he's a hard runner, and I think if he can't do that, then his game suffers. So yeah, he doesn't seem to be able to really get a clear run at it either without missing games here and there anymore. So, he's apparently carrying some kind of knee injury now. It's heavily strapped up and stuff at training, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not really interested in this pick, but because that alone, that puts me off right there. But let's look at the rest anyway. It's the same old thing as the others that I've just gone through. He can't score in losses last year. Like, why is this? I don't know. It's common for mids to score less in losses for obvious reasons, but if you go back and watch the video I did for that, you'll notice that not many mids drop off nearly as much as the Gold Coast guys, and that's what I'm interested in. I need to find out why. Not even because I want to pick them or anything. It's just, I don't know, it annoys me when I can see something like that happening, but I can't get to the bottom of why. So the pre versus post buy, the average, it's pretty close, and so was Anderson's. So, this kind of makes me think that Rao's drop-off had to be from something else rather than just the wins and losses. Like, what makes Rao different from Miller and Anderson? So obviously all three of them, they struggle to score properly in losses. We can see that. But how come Tuke and Anderson pre to post buy wasn't that different, but Rouse was massively different. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Also, we're here to talk about Miller, so Rouse had his time. I'll move on. Points per disposal. This is just below where I like it at 4, but it's still pretty good, I guess. We saw, Flanders can function with less, so when he's fit, he's hard to tag because he just runs all day, but is that fitness still there? I don't know. It's hard. Like, if you've ever played any level of footy and you got niggly injuries and stuff, it's hard to build up momentum, and momentum is everything, I think, with high levels of fitness. The points per minute and the TOG, they're a pretty good combo, and the adjusted average here of 106, that's a pretty good sign. So injury, like sub-games, caused that. His TOG obviously used to be higher, but, will injuries allow it to rise again? Probably not, to be honest. I think he's nearly 29, so the years are starting to get away from him a bit. It's pretty uncommon for players as they get into their late 20s, early 30s, that their bodies start to react better to recovery and stuff like that. I'm hoping my voice makes it to the end of this video, by the way. It's starting to give way. Sorry about that, but yeah, I'll try and get there. So his CBA brackets, they don't really show any pattern at all, except, 80 to 90% is his best. Yeah, this over here, the win-loss CBAs, that's not really enough difference to suggest anything, except for maybe Dimmer still likes to turn to him a bit when things are going bad, I would say. Interesting that Rao had that small drop in the CBAs and Miller had the small rise in the losses, so I think this also might support the theory that he looks for like a different element in there, maybe a bit of a quicker midfield or something, so he gets Rao out of there. But yeah, again, I don't know. So as I said at the start, that knee injury and the fact that he can't seem to stay fully fit anymore for like more than half a season, that's not good. But paired with the win-loss average thing, I don't think he's a pick anymore. I reckon we're actually going to see him decline further, which is unfortunate given that he was that Supercoach god only a few years ago. But I guess that's the problem as well. Like, when your game is built on hard running so much, if you lose that ability, you're probably going to be in deep trouble. Like, think of a Hawkins or a Pendlebury. They were never quick or hard runners or anything, so they didn't lose anything in their later part of their career because they never relied on it. Whereas, players like Miller, where it's all like that, they're going to age out quicker, I think. Not saying that he relies totally on that, but you get the point I'm trying to make. I think as well, there's like a tendency with a lot of super coaches to look at past years when players were at their peak, and it's tempting to think that they can get back to it. I see it year after year, but I've been one of them as well that's thought this, and in their defense, it's kind of obvious why. Like, we do look a lot at past performance to try and, what's that ad where it says about it doesn't indicate future performance or something like that, but we do. Like, I'm doing it now. I've been doing it in this video. We look at past kind of scores to see how you think a player is going to go in the future. But it's a different thing, though. I think people do get sucked in by these guys that once averaged like 120. It's pretty unlikely they're ever going to get back there. It was unlikely that they ever averaged that in the first place. So yeah, I think he's going to decline. So that's it for the Suns preview. It's actually a pretty long video considering that I only covered 5 players or 6 players or whatever it was. I could have covered others as well, like Witts, Power, Humphrey, maybe Noble, but they're not really in the conversation as picks, are they? Then there's Lombard, who there's no AFL data to go by, and I've said before about why I don't really cover rookies in these videos. So yeah, I guess thanks if you've made it this far and put up with my sick voice. I'm surprised I've made it this far. Let me know in the comments what you make of these players and the issues I've talked about at Gold Coast, particularly the lack of ability to win away and why the mids drop off a cliff when they're losing. So I know I've probably sounded quite harsh on the team here, and I'll probably cop some negative comments for it, and that's fine, but the Suns are actually my second favourite team if I had to pick one, so I do want to see them do well, and it's just frustrating watching odd decisions year after year. And I don't mean that so much as questioning Dimmer, because I know that he's a great coach and stuff, but I just mean more so in the past, it's got me to this point where it's, it's built up frustration. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. That'll either be the GWS preview, or I might even do a match report tonight from the threesome trial game thing with the Suns, Brisbane and Collingwood. So, yeah, cheers.